Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy H Money. Before I get into anything, I just want to let you know who this video is for. Anybody out there suffering from Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, if you've had surgery for small bowel obstruction, if you've had small bowel resections, if you're facing any of these issues in the near future, you could definitely relate to this and maybe even benefit from some of the information that I share. Why am I doing this video? I've been wanting to do this for quite a while now myself. For many years, I've been dealing with small bowel obstruction issues, adhesions. I've had several surgeries, several small bowel resections, and throughout my journey, I've been online several times and read many blogs and watched a couple of video blogs of people sharing their stories of going through similar situations. And it definitely helped me to hear those stories and just realize, there's other people going through the same things, that you're kind of not alone. So if I can share my story and it helps somebody in that way, that's a good thing. Also, I've been through so much throughout all this that I think there's a lot of information that I could share that could be a benefit to somebody in similar issues. Also, I've got a lot of friends, people that care about me, and on social media, they've seen me, make many posts of, health issues, having surgeries, hospital stays, and they're not really quite clear on exactly what's going on with me. So, I thought I could share this video to let them know. What I'm going to do first is just kind of real quickly go through my surgical history as it relates to the small bowel issues, and then maybe go back to each one and just kind of share some of the details around each surgery. And then I'm going to just talk about the symptoms after each surgery and some of the medications and kind of how it's affected my life, and it still continues to affect my life this day. So, surgical history starts 1977. I was 3 years old. I had to have an emergency appendectomy. My appendix ruptured and actually perforated a hole in the small intestine. 1993, age of 19, I had to have surgery for small bowel obstruction. They just removed adhesions at that time. 2006, laparoscopic surgery to remove adhesions, followed up by a full-blown bowel obstruction surgery where this was my first small bowel resection. 2007, as a result of absorption issues because of the small bowel resection, I started to have forming kidney stones at a high rate. So I had a surgery for a kidney stone where they placed a stent and a couple of lithotripsies to break up the stones. 2008, surgery to remove my gallbladder and to remove adhesions, followed up by another full-blown bowel obstruction and another resection. And 2010, I had 4 surgeries for a neurostimulator implant to help with the pain, chronic pain I was dealing with. Surgery for a temporary implant. The full implants, they had to make an adjustment because I was having problems, and then eventually we had to remove it because I was having problems. And in 2011, I had another small bowel resection and removal of adhesions. And so I'm pretty much now done with surgery. Unless it's absolutely emergency, gotta have it, I'm done being on the table and being cut up. So okay, so now let's just kind of go through, kind of tell you about some of the details around some of these. When I was 3 years old, I was a sick little boy, had the surgery for my appendix, was in the hospital a couple of weeks, but I fully recovered and got right back to being a normal kid. No limitations, just same crazy playful kid. Didn't have any issues until my teenage years. I started having some episodes of rolling abdominal cramps. Anybody that's been through small bowel obstructions or partial obstructions knows the type of pain I'm talking about. Accompanied with nausea, vomiting, some diarrhea. They wouldn't happen very often at first. They wouldn't last too long, maybe an hour or two. I just kind of dismissed them as, maybe a virus. I ate something wrong, constipation. It would always kind of go away. So I just dealt with it. Over the years, the episodes started getting a little bit more and more consistent. The pain was more intense, and they started to last longer. Eventually, I was having a really bad episode, and I decided to, hey, something's really wrong. I need to tell my parents. So tell my parents. Mother takes me to the emergency room. They do all the testing, imaging. Don't find anything. They give me an enema and diagnose me with constipation and send me on my way. And this would be a repeated pattern. Many trips to the ER with these episodes. Same thing, enema, constipation, send me home. Just so happened my mother worked at the hospital there. And so she knew everybody there, all the nurses, doctors, and people that worked there. And this started to weigh on her because I started to see some of the looks that people were giving her, and I started to hear, things that doctors were saying. They were suggesting taking me to a psychiatrist, that, maybe I had some mental issues, that I was just reaching out for attention, or I just didn't know how to handle pain, which bothered her. But it kind of frustrated her. It was weighing on her because, of course, you're a mother. You want to look out for your child. You want to believe in what your child is saying, but you start to have doubts. They're never finding anything. Maybe he is just reaching out for attention. And I hold no ill will towards her because I'm a parent now and understand what that's like, trying to figure out what's best for your child. And it was weighing down on me. It was very frustrating. I don't like going to the emergency room. It's not fun for me. I'm there because I'm in extreme pain. There's something wrong. I need help. But they keep telling me nothing's wrong with me, that I'm just constipated, and I'm reaching out for attention. So I kind of make the decision, with how it was weighing on me and my mother. I just, I'm just going to keep this to myself. I'm going to deal with it on my own. Why tell anybody? Because, trips to the ER, they don't do any good for me. Most of the time I'm leaving still in pain anyway. So I decided I'm going to deal with this, keep it to myself, to see how things go. So over the years, I spent many a night while my brother, sister, mom, dad, all asleep. I'm laying up for 4 or 5 hours in the bathroom floor, hugging the toilet, trying to sleep in between episode of painful cramping, sometimes vomiting, and I'm keeping it all to myself. I'm not telling anybody because I just don't see the point. Got very good at dealing with it, very good at dealing with pain, masking it, hiding it, putting on a smile for people. I still was a normal teenager. Was still able. I played basketball, went to school, had a job, had a girlfriend, went to parties. Still had a normal life. Just that when these episodes happened, though, everything stopped. Everything shut down, and I did my best to hide it. Well, eventually, 1993, I'm 19 years old, and I'm having the worst episode I've ever had. So I'm living with my mother at the time, going to college. Wake her up, let her know, Mom, hey, having another one of those episodes like I used to have, and truth be told, I never stopped having them. I just stopped telling anybody about it. So we go to the ER. Don't remember anything except for arriving there. I was in so much pain, crazy amount of pain. Remember getting there. I remember waking up, my mother telling me, hey, we're going home. And as we're getting ready to go to the checkout desk, I remember I threw up all over their floor. And so they're like, okay, something's wrong with this kid. Let's go ahead and admit him overnight and have a specialist come look at him in the morning. And, and that's anybody going through any of these issues I listed, understand my frustration with the ER visits. And I found, though, you throw up near where they're working, and you might get a little bit more attention. They might take you a little more serious. So just a little tip there. So I'm overnight, stay there. GI comes, looks at the same images that the ER doctors looked at, and diagnoses me with a small bowel obstruction and tells me I need to have immediate surgery. See, this was as a result of the appendectomy. Scar tissue that had formed from that and adhesions was giving me problem all these years. So now I'm got a small bowel obstruction. So probably what was happening all those times, those episodes, was partial bowel obstructions. So now I'm scared to death of the surgery, but I'm ecstatic that, wow, this huge weight has lifted off me. I feel vindicated. I feel validated. And I want to go rub it in every face of every nurse and doctor in the ER. Let them know, hey, I wasn't crazy. I wasn't reaching for attention. Look, there was really something wrong with me. So I'm scared, but I'm ready and I'm happy at the same time because, hey, I know what's wrong with me now. And we're going to get something done about it. So this surgery, I was in the hospital for about a week. Had my first experience with the NG tube. Anybody watching this has been through the issues knows what the NG tube is. If you're maybe getting ready to have one of these type of surgeries, you may have heard of it or you might not have. NG tubes, they stick down your nose. It goes down through your throat and into your stomach to empty the contents of your stomach. Now, this can be done to treat partial obstructions or even full bowel obstructions. I've had times where I've been in the hospital for, 3 or 4 days and the obstruction clears out just from having everything off your stomach for a while. They need to do this before surgery so that, there's nothing on your stomach. And then also when you wake up from surgery, you have to have it in to keep everything off your stomach while your intestines and everything, wakes back up and gets back to working again. They put mine in about an hour before surgery, and it was horrible. I know it's kind of a person-to-person thing. It's different from person to person. Some people don't mind it, don't have a problem with it. I've seen videos of people on YouTube not even flinching when they're having it put in. But for me, it's a nightmare. I have a horrible gag reflex. So it's hard getting it in. Once it's in, I'm constantly gagging and coughing and choking. Can't stand it. I get mad at the world, don't want to talk, don't want to move. I mean, it's just horrible. So I can remember them putting it in. I'm like, Mom, hurry up and tell them to come get me and put me to sleep because I don't want to deal with this. Now, the good news is once you wake up from anesthesia after the surgery, you're not conscious of it anymore. So, I'm just happy to wake up. I'm seeing faces of my family, and I just start talking, and I'm not conscious that it's there. And it's not bothering me because I guess, your body's relaxed. You're not thinking about it, so it's really not an issue. I think I had it in about 3 or 4 days, probably 4 days during the recovery that week while I was in the hospital. I will say, those last couple of days, your throat does start to get a little sore. Get a little sore in your nasal area, a little congestion and whatnot. But it was really a non-issue after surgery for me. Let's see. So, recovered, go home. I was in the hospital a week. I'm at home about 3 or 4 days. I go to my follow-up visit. And I was actually having pain again, and I was getting scared, but I was not going to tell the doctor because I had just been in the hospital a week. I was done with it. I'm like, I'm supposed to be okay now. I'm not trying to go back in the hospital. But the doctor could tell that I was in pain, so he sent me over for some more imaging, and turned out I had a partial bowel obstruction. So I get readmitted to the hospital, have to reinsert the NG tube, which I fought, and doctor threatened to hold me down. So I was in the hospital another week, treated with the NG tube, but thankfully the obstruction opened up, didn't have to have a second surgery. Okay, like I said, this was adhesions from the previous surgery. If people have asked me before to kind of tell them what I have, like there's a name for it, I don't really have a disease with a name. But if you had to say something, I guess you could say it's adhesive disease, where I just form adhesions, a lot easier than most people when I have surgery. The doctor said that he should have probably done a corrective surgery, which I know now would have been a small bowel resection, but me being only 19 years old, with all the symptoms and complications that you can have after that resection, he didn't want to do that to me being so young. So he just went in and kind of cleaned things up. But he did tell me, he said, this is going to continue to be a problem for you. You're going to have more surgeries. It's just a matter of, how long. It could be 5 days, 5 months, 5 years, but it's going to happen again. And it's going to continue to be an issue in your life. Through my 20s, early 30s, I would continue to have some episodes here and there, a couple of trips to the ER, a couple of admissions to the hospital, being treated with the NG tube. Started getting really bad around 2006, and I started missing a lot of work. I was admitted for 4 days, and while I was in the hospital, had a surgeon come talk to me, about my history and whatnot, and he said that, hey, what we could do if this becomes a real issue for you, you're having, come to the hospital quite often, you're missing work, we could go in laparoscopically, and it's less invasive, which would mean, less reforming of adhesions and scar tissue, and kind of clean things up, and maybe this will help you out. So about a couple months later, after the hospital stay, things are not getting better. So I decided, let's give this a shot. So we go in. I'm in the hospital for a couple of days after the laparoscopic surgery. Go home for a couple of days, and this is my MO throughout all of this. Is nothing is ever one and done. I always end up right back after a surgery, a procedure, or something. Something always goes wrong for me. So I'm at home a couple of days, and then I'm right back in the ER, and this time I have a full-blown bowel obstruction. So they have to go in, open me up, and I have my first small bowel resection. And they removed the last 4.5 feet of my small intestine and the ileocecal valve. And I'll talk about some of the symptoms that came from this later. I was in the hospital for about a week, again, kind of same procedure. NG tube, unfortunately, actually, they took it out too soon this time. Tried to eat, ended up throwing up, so I had to have it reinserted, which was a nightmare. Went home, went through the recovery process. I'm going to talk about that more later, but it really took a while to get over this one. This resection really changed my life. It changed everything. I had a couple surgeries for the kidney stones, like I talked about, because of the malabsorption issues, because of the resection. Let's see, so 2008, I'm having problems again. I had been seeing a GI and trying to hold down a job and just, have a quality of life. The GI introduced me to a surgeon to talk to see if, maybe we could try and do something again, because there's, as technology progresses, there's more things they can do to try and prevent re-scarring. So do some pre-testing and things the surgeon does to kind of just assess everything and find out I need to have my gallbladder removed. So now there's kind of not a choice. So, but it's good they can remove my gallbladder, and while they're in there, kind of clean up the adhesions and scar tissue and hopefully help me out, relieve some of my symptoms. So we go do that, same procedure, NG tube, everything, recovery in the hospital for a week. Go home one day, and I'm back in the hospital with a full-blown bowel obstruction. They try to treat it with the NG tube for a couple of days because, when you don't want to do major back-to-back surgeries like that unless you absolutely have to. It's not good because my body still really hadn't full time to recover. But it wasn't clearing up. It was a bad one, so we had to go in again and had another small bowel resection. It wasn't as extensive this time. I think there was only a couple of feet removed. But I was in the hospital for almost 3 months this time, and there was times where it looked like I was not going to make it out. Now, one thing I will say, with the second surgery, something great happened. My GI, my surgeon had put their heads together and discussed everything, knowing that the second surgery was going to be a lot longer recovery because this was back-to-back surgeries. And with all of my issues and stuff that I've been doing, they decided to put in a G-tube. Okay, and a G-tube, gastric tube, some people, it's a feeding tube for them. They put it into your abdomen so it goes into your stomach, and it will do the same job that the NG tube does. It's straight from your stomach, and then it has a tube that comes out and connects to a bag, kind of like a colostomy bag. I mean, it's not a colostomy, but, it has a bag that it drains out into. Also, there's a little valve that you can keep the hole there. They put the valve in. It's called a PICC key, actually, and it can open up and you can insert the tube to drain stuff out. So if I ever was at home and was having really bad obstruction pains, I could try doing that. Also, I had trouble with a lot of bad bloating. You could just open it up and kind of let some of the air out. And they also knew I had such a hard time with the NG tube. This would be much easier for me. And let me tell you, oh my God, if you have a choice, if you have the option to talk to your surgeon about getting a G tube versus the NG tube, go for the G tube. It is so much better. You have a valve to where you can turn it on and off. So now, instead of, first you don't have the discomfort of the tube down your nose. Then, if they take it out too soon and you start throwing up, they got to put the NG tube back in. With this one, you just turn the valve off. If you start getting sick, you just open it up and you're fine. You're good to go. It's like them putting in a new NG tube. So you don't have to go through that. You can just turn it off and on, test it out, see how long you can go. You start getting sick, you just open it back up and you're good to go. So, I mean, oh my God. So now every surgery, well, I've only had one surgery in 2011 since that one. We did the G tube again, and just not ever having to worry about that NG tube is a godsend. I mean, I love it. So yeah, I was in, and another thing from, I had the first time I had a PICC line, and I would suggest this to anybody, because throughout all these surgeries, my veins have just gotten worse and worse, where it's harder and harder to get an IV line started. So if you have problems like that with IVs, ask for a PICC line. I mean, because it's so much easier. You don't have to, they got little leads that come out and it goes in under your arm, that they can draw blood from it and give you all your medications in it. And so you don't have to worry about that nurse coming and waking you up at 4 in the morning when you're in the hospital to draw blood, and your arm's getting sore from that. They just take it right out of there. And also, it seemed to me that all the medications I got, the pain medications especially, were a lot more effective going through the PICC line. So that's something I would suggest. If you have that option, ask your doctor, hey, I have a lot of trouble with IVs. Can we do a PICC line? So just another suggestion. Like I said, this hospital stay was really tough on me. I mean, my bowels never woke up. They would listen for bowel sounds every day. Doctors were very worried. I had like a team of 4 or 5 doctors. I was having problems with my pancreas. It got really scary. I thought that there was a chance I was not going to make it home at all. And there was times that I think my doctors felt the same way. They sent me home with the thought that I was coming back for surgery. They were pretty sure I was getting ready for a third surgery, and they would just, let's let them go home, spend some time with the family for a while. So they sent me home with the G-tube. I was still on TPN, which is nutrition through the tube. So I was able to do that at home. I had a nurse that was coming to the house to help me with everything. But once I got home, finally things just started to wake up, and I got better. So I didn't have to require the next surgery. I had the G-tube. I had that in for probably another year. It never really did the job that they thought maybe it would do as far as relieving some of the pressure, like letting the air out, things like that. So it was good to have it in there for, kind of mental, just to know it's there, thinking, it could help. And then also if I knew I ever had to go back into the emergency room, I wouldn't have to worry about the NG tube. They could just use that. So, it was a good thing there. And it just leaves a small scar. It's nothing big. So, and I'm so scarred up anyway, it didn't matter. 2010, I'm dealing with one of the symptoms I was dealing with was the chronic pain. So the neurostimulator thing, my pain specialist suggested to give it a shot. And they do a temporary implant where the chip is actually outside your body still. And so you go a week to see if this is something that is going to help the pain. The best way I can describe it is kind of like, I don't know if you've ever had any kind of physical therapy, and they use the kind of the electro, I don't know what you call it, but where it's kind of, shock massage type thing. It kind of feels like that inside your body. So it's supposed to, with the area that you're having the pain, which mine was the abdominal area, of course, it's supposed to help change the way the pain feels. Now, the thing about it, though, is that week, that first surgery, it was just a small cut in your back, and I was surprised how much pain I was in. But that week, you're just laying around. You're not moving. So when you use it, it helps, but you don't get the full idea of what it's going to be like because you're not moving around. Because after I did the full implant, which was the second surgery for that, when I would get up and move around, lay down and sit up at certain positions, it would change. Sometimes the intensity would go from like 2 to 10 and just, hurt you, or you would feel it in the wrong part of your body. Where I'm supposed to feel it in my abdomen, I might feel it in my leg. So told them I was having those kind of issues, and we had to do a surgery to have an adjustment. So they do an adjustment, and it seems like it's working for a little bit, but then it starts doing the same things again, and then now I'm having extreme sciatic nerve pain. Doctors think I'm so thin that where they put the chip in, it was back here, right at my waistline. I'm kind of at the top of your right buttock, and just right there where that sciatic nerve is. So I'm so thin that it was just really irritating that nerve. So eventually we had to just remove it. So I had to give up on that. And that was really, at the time I was out on long-term disability at work, and that was kind of like that last shot, I had a lot of hope that maybe this can make things better, where I can get back to work, trying to get back to a quality of life. But I had so many other symptoms going on too, so it was just a shot to try and help. Didn't work out. 2011, I had been going to the ER like every other 2 weeks, what felt like partial bowel obstruction. Of course, they weren't seeing anything, but it was just getting bad. So, my GI suggested, just because of quality of life, to have surgery again. The surgeon that did my last surgery in 2008, she didn't want to do it. She said she just, unless it was an emergency situation, she did not want to open me up because she knew things could get a lot worse, that they may have to remove a lot more. So we went to a different surgeon, and he felt like he could help me. He was a little bit more experienced, and so I go ahead and elect to do it again. I wish I wouldn't have. Well, I say there was good things that came out of it, but then it brought on more symptoms that I wasn't dealing with before the surgery, so that was kind of the downside to it. But it did kind of clear up. Of course, like I said, I was in the ER twice a month, it seemed like, so that stopped. But issues got worse overall. So that was my last surgery. I was in there for a week, was about to go home, got sick, threw up all over the place, ended up having to stay in a whole nother week. So like I said, never one and done, but only the one surgery. Not an extensive resection, just a foot, I think, this time, actually in 2 different areas. So that's my last surgery. So now I guess what I want to do, I just want to talk about some of the symptoms that, some of you probably know about it because you've been going through this. If you're kind of at the beginning of a journey, this is kind of what you might be prepared for. Of course, chronic abdominal pain. The obstruction pains, when that happens, that's rolling abdominal cramping. bloating, where it just feels like your stomach's just not, or your intestines just aren't working. Everything just stops, and it is just pain. When I'm not having those episodes, I still deal with chronic pain in the abdominal area due to adhesions and just all the surgeries. Sometimes it's always constant pain. Sometimes it's just light. I'm able to deal with it. Sometimes it's sharp pains that come in that kind of almost knock me off my feet. But it's always really bad on my right side, which is where they put the anastomosis, it's called, where they reattach the small intestine to the colon. So that's really bad. But then one of the biggest issue and the most disabling issue that I have to deal with is the chronic diarrhea. I mean, that small bowel resection I had in 2006, where they removed the last 4.5 feet of my small intestine, plus that valve. See, the ileocecal valve, it regulates the flow from the small intestine into the colon. Well, with that removed, now, almost half of my small intestine is gone. Things just flow right through me. I mean, the floodgates are open. So I haven't had a regular bowel movement since 2006. Everything's diarrhea. After that resection, the first couple months, I mean, I lived in the restroom. I was having 20 or 30 bowel movements a day, literally. Nowadays, I mean, I have medication I take to try and slow things down. But, it just ranges. I can go anywhere from sometimes just, 3 or 4 bowel movements, sometimes 10 to 15. It's kind of all over the place. The malabsorption issues, I have to have B12 injections every month because my body won't absorb that. I've had really bad weight loss. I've been anemic, and then also due to the B12 issues, I get very tired easily. So dealing with that. So chronic pain, chronic diarrhea, a lot of nausea, and a lot of bloating, man. I mean, it's like the diarrhea, when the diarrhea stops, sometimes during the afternoon, and my evenings will be just full, just bloating, okay? And then when I have to go to the restroom with this chronic diarrhea, it's not a regular restroom trip, okay? It's painful, it's long, it don't never seem to end. I think I'm done, I get up, I gotta sit right back down. Sometimes I'm just passing gas the whole time, and I'll have to take my knuckles and just knead on my stomach to try and just make things move through, and that will hurt, but I just have no choice. And I mean, I'll spend sometimes from an hour to 2 hours sitting on the toilet, and so this really is an interruption in your life. It really affects. I mean, you can't work, you can't live, you just can't. You have to be near a restroom. That's, like I said, that's the most disabling issue that I've had to deal with. Because of that, I am on disability right now. I lost a couple of jobs while I was going through all this. I was able to hold down one for a while and had benefits that helped me get on this disability. And so now I'm just continuing to fight and to try and manage everything the best I can. So, I have a lot of medications that I have to be on because of that. But the problem is like a lot of the medications fight each other. So trying to manage all these symptoms can be challenging. So, I mean, of course, we got chronic pain issues, so I have to take pain medication. And the pain medication can slow things down and constipate you, which is not a really good thing for somebody who has a lot of adhesions and could possibly have an obstruction. But at the same time, you want to slow things down because the chronic diarrhea is just impossible to live. You're just living in the restroom. So I have a Questrin powder that I take, which is supposed to slow things down also. But the combination of the two can be too much sometimes, so now I get too constipated and I'm in a lot of pain. I get real bloated, and sometimes leads to trips to the ER. So I have to try and find the right amount where, like, I only take one Questrin powder a day. Sometimes I don't take it at all, depending how things are going. Of course, I have to take my pain medication, but I try to monitor or regulate that as best I can so I don't take too much. And then I have liquid Reglan, which what that does is the opposite. It will speed things up inside. So, because there are times in the evening where, because of the other medication and whatever's going on inside, I get real bloated and constipated, so I have to take the liquid Reglan, and that speeds things up. So it's like I got medications that trying to slow things down, some try to speed things up, and it's just a constant battle trying to find the right mixture, the right amount, the right time to take everything. And it's a constant battle, but I know I'm still blessed. I have to accept my limitations. That's been a hard thing. I know that I won't ever get any better. I mean, I'm going to continue to have more surgeries, and that can be very depressing. And I get very low at times. I mean, especially after this last surgery in 2011, I spent probably that next year in a deep depression, and that's not me. Everybody, my wife, my sons, my family, that's not me. I'm a high-spirited, high-energy guy with so much fight in me. You know, my doctors will tell you that they're amazed at everything I've been through and how my attitude is always good. I'm always smiling and trying to, to find joy in life. But I did. I mean, it hit me because this has just been a constant roller coaster of just ups and downs, and there's been times where things get better. I get in the gym, I put in a little weight, work's going good and feeling good, and then bam, I'm back in the hospital, another surgery, and it's just, sometimes it just gets to where it seems like, what's the point, it's never going to get any better. And then along the way, it went from, having good and bad days to just having bad and really bad days, to where I never really have good days, symptoms-wise. But I gotta say, I came out of that depression, and one of the big things, like I said, you have to find a level of acceptance. I mean, it's been hard for me because I was, like I said, high energy guy. I was very active, played basketball, run, always at my son's, playing youth sports. I did coaching, always involved in everything. Just, love to get out of the house and do things. So that adjustment of not being able to do that, and then even if I do it, like if I do decide feeling good enough to go for a run, I can't run like I used to. And I'm one of those guys where I used to run like 5Ks and things. I don't just run just to run. I'm like competitive. I'm trying to win. So that's been a hard adjustment. Just knowing I can't be the father I used to be. With my oldest son, I was always there every day. It's nice outside. We're out in the yard throwing the football. We're always going somewhere doing things. I'm there throughout all the games, practices, or whatever. And my younger son hasn't seen that side. He hasn't seen that father. He's seen glimpses of it, but, his daddy, he sees a lot of times, laying on the couch, or he's in the restroom, or he's in the hospital. That's, that's really hard, Excuse me. That's been a big deal. Just not being able to be the father I want to be, the father I used to be. Not being able to husband I want to be, the husband that I used to be. Just being me, I had to take and make those adjustments to accept my limitations, accept my situation. And I just got to understand, I'm still blessed. With as bad as things are, I'm still blessed. I have my life still. The quality of life might not be perfect, but I have to make the most of it, manage it the best I can, enjoy the father that I'm able to be, the husband I'm able to be, whatever I am able to give to life. Just do it the best I can and be happy that I'm able to do something, anything. So that mentality kind of really got me out of that depression, and it's still hard. I still fall back and get my low spots. And I got a wonderful wife, 2 sons, mother, father, people that are supportive to help pull me out of it. But like I said, I'm done with surgeries, unless it's an absolute emergency, because things just seem like they've gotten worse and worse. So I'll say, anybody out there, if you're facing surgery, give it a lot of thought. Really weigh your situation. Because there's times now I can look back, the symptoms that I have now, day to day, are worse than the symptoms I had when I elected to have those surgeries to try and make things better. So I look back now and I'm like, I should have just dealt with it, until it was an emergency situation. I would really think things through, and you can get through it. I'm not trying to sound all pessimistic, because like I said, I'm still here. I'm still blessed. I'm still going. And, you can still have a quality of life going through these diseases and these surgeries, but you need to be aware that it can alter your quality of life. There are a lot of symptoms and things and changes that come with it. So really, really give a lot of thought. Talk to different doctors, and explore all your options before you make that decision. It's been a long journey. It's been a long battle. I'm never going to give up. I've got my family. I lean on God's love, and that's helped me through. A lot of support from family and friends, and that's important. So, anybody out there that's getting ready to go through these things, I'm praying for you. You can do it. It's gonna be tough, but you just gotta maintain that fighting spirit and get through it, and it can be done. But like I said, the biggest thing is that if you have limitations afterwards, you have to adjust your life, and you have to learn to accept it and make the most of everything. So just good luck to everybody out there. Hopefully, maybe just sharing my story, maybe help somebody. Maybe there was something you heard that can be of benefit to you. So I just end this with, God bless and peace.